Polyunsaturated fatty acids in psoriasis. This is very important. Why? Because we have seen with very obvious results while when we prescribe this Bupa polyunsaturated fatty acids in psoriasis. A number of uncontrolled studies have shown the beneficial effect of fish and fish oil supplementation, which are rich in omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids on psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis. The main constituents of fish oil are icosapentaenoic acid and the docosahexaene. The basis for the anti-inflammatory effects of fish and fish oil supplementation is the replacement of pro-inflammatory arachidonic acid in membrane phospholipid by anti-inflammatory omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty. Further role of polyunsaturated fatty acids. Daily intake of around 170 gram of oily fish can be recommended. The EPA and DHA 1.8 gram per day of fish oil 10 capsules 3 times a day can be given as supplementation. Parenteral infusion, if required, can be given to 4.2 gram per day of EPA and DHA. It is useful in acute gutted psoriasis, which is a very common condition in children. Combined omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acid supplementation, which is rationale is that low concentration of Bupa and membrane phospholipid increased saturated fatty acids and decreased omega-3 fatty acids in psoriatic arthritis. High doses of lino-leak acid suppression, suppressing the LDB4 production. So this is why we find this is the proper ratio, so that omega-3 should be higher with an anti-inflammatory effect, and omega-6 fatty acid should be lower with a which has a pro-inflammatory effect. Fasting and vegetarian diet in psoriasis. Fasting periods, it decreases the arachidonic acid, and similarly the intake of low calorie diet, it decreases the CD4 cell activation, which has a role in psoriasis. Vegetarian diet increases the anti-inflammatory cytokines, and IL-4 decreases, and hence oxidative stress also decreases. Thus there is improvement in psoriasis. Polyunsaturated fatty acid ratios in inflammatory disease of the skin. An important dietary factor that influences the inflammation is the relative intake of omega-6 and omega-3, which has been well documented in literature. And a typical Western diet has a significantly higher concentration of omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acids at the expense of omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids, because of the predominance of omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acids in most vegetable oils and processed foods made with these oils. In the current US diet, the ratio has risen to 10:1, omega-6 to omega-3, whereas in non-westernized diets it has been estimated to be between 2 and 3:1. The reference of same has been given below. Ratio of POAS 3 and 6. Hence, the average Western diets promotes a pro-inflammatory cytokine and icosanoid profile that underlies the development of variety of inflammatory diseases, including acne, atopic dermatitis, and psoriasis. For the acne patient, increased consumption of dietary omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids may be therapeutic because of its ability to suppress the inflammatory cytokine production. Also, dietary omega-3 fatty acids are known to inhibit the synthesis of pro-inflammatory icosanoids, prostaglandin E2 and leukotriene B. This hypothesis is certainly reasonable given recent evidence showing that an LTB4 blocker led to a 70% reduction in inflammatory acne lesions after 3 months. So this is a list of Bupa per 100 grams, where omega-3 and omega-6 containing foods have been mentioned. Diet in apple ulcer. This is one of the most common ulcers we see in our daily practice. Every doctor must have some or the other time seen, and some of us may have suffered also. So the cause is unknown. Well-established association with celiac disease is seen. Recurrent cases may be due to gluten sensitivity in the absence of celiac disease. So somewhere or the other malabsorption is there. Malabsorption may be due to gluten or may not be associated with it also. Some studies support, however others refute this association. Diet in pemphigus. Pemphigus may be not very known to many of you, but it is a blistering condition of skin whereby the patient may suffer from blisters from mouth or the mucous membrane to skin, be it the cheeks or the oral mucosa, scalp, whole of the skin is affected. In fact, one patient is admitted currently in our ward of linear IgA disease, which is a type of pemphigus. Substances such as thiols, thiocyanate, phenols, and tannins can precipitate the pemphigus in a genetically predisposed individual. A near complete list of foods containing these substances. It includes vegetables like garlic, onion, mustard, turnip, broccoli, radish, cabbage, and so on. Similarly, the fruits and nuts like mango, raspberry, pistachios, avocado, cherry, and so on, many of the dry fruits which we take on a daily basis. Many of us are very fond of taking the dry fruits. And so many a times we get the most of the patients of pemphigus they present in the winter season. Why? Because all these items, if you see closely, they are consumed in the winter season. So most of the patients they present in this season. Masticatories and stimulants also like coffee, tea, visual nut teas, katha and cassava. So these are all the culprit diets which can lead to exacerbation of pemphigus. That does not mean that we ask the patient never to consume it, but to consume it in a restricted basis. Beverages and drinks in pemphigus, beverages, beer, wine, soft drinks with other items like ice cream, candies, baked foods, spices, these are all should be restricted. Water, like high tannin content in Brazil river water. Actually, this Phobos albigum, it is a type of pemphigus which was once very common in Brazil. But after the chlorination practice, the tannins were removed and the high content of tannin in Brazil river it reduced and hence the disease. Endemicity of the Phobos albigum it reduced. Mechanism of acantholysis of isothiocyanate. So these items which I just mentioned they cause acantholysis. Isothiocyanates may be allyl or benzyl isothiocyanate, which may lead to immunologically reactive, they call the antibody mediated acantholysis, or they may be phenyl isothiocyanate, which can cause non-immunological biochemical acantholysis. Similarly, phenolic compounds such as archeol are found in toxicodendron families of plants, for example, mango, cashews, pistachios. They can cause again the acantholysis. Tannins, polyphenolic compounds, cranberry, peach, apple, ginger, etc. have been shown to reduce the acantholysis. So these are some miscellaneous items food items which should be avoided. Nickel containing foods like nuts, soya beans, legumes and chocolates can aggravate the systemic contact appetite. Now the question arises, what is systemic contact appetite? Contact means you should have a direct contact with the agent. But sometimes we have some cases of systemic contact appetitis where the patient is continuously consuming that particular item, be it a mineral or some other allergen, and the patient develops the lesions on the skin. No other systemic problem patient has except the lesions of the skin, the allergic contact appetitis or the inflammation of the skin. So widely held belief that consumption of excessively sour foods or consuming milk and fish together can aggravate UTI. This is a false belief basically. There is nothing like that, that excessive sour foods like oranges and the lemon, these are going to cause any vitiligo or any induce vitiligo or aggravate.